chosen one, what if I told you that your deepest fear isn't death? It's that you'll die without ever knowing why you were born. What if the very moment you're questioning your purpose, doubting your worth, wondering if God has forgotten you, is the exact moment heaven has been waiting for? What if your greatest breakdown is actually your divine setup? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. This video didn't show up in your feed by accident. You didn't stumble across this message during another sleepless night of scrolling. Heaven summoned you here, right now, in this exact moment, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your timing, your worth, and your calling. Before we go any further, pause with me. Close your eyes for just 3 seconds. Feel that stirring in your chest, that sudden shift in the atmosphere around you. That's not anxiety. That's not coincidence. That's divine recognition. Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. Here's the shocking truth nobody talks about. You've been living under a spiritual curfew. While others seem to walk effortlessly into their blessings, you've been held back. Not because you're unworthy, but because you carry something so powerful, so dangerous to the kingdom of darkness, that you had to be hidden until this appointed hour. The enemy doesn't attack average people with the intensity he's attacked you. He doesn't wage war against those who pose no threat. Your struggles haven't been random, they've been strategic. You've been in spiritual boot camp, chosen one, and graduation day just arrived. If something just shifted in your spirit, if you felt heaven lean in just now, type 777 in the comments. Don't think about it, just do it. Mark this moment as sacred, because you're not just watching a video anymore. You're stepping into a divine appointment that was scheduled before you were born. I want to pause here and speak to those beautiful souls who have supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let heaven know you're ready. Don't just watch this, receive it. Don't just hear it, absorb it. Because in the next few minutes, everything you thought you knew about your delays, your disappointments, and your destiny is about to be rewritten by the hand of God Himself. This is your divine interruption. This is your moment. Are you ready? Why does everyone else seem to glide through life while you carry invisible stones in your chest? Why does their laughter sound hollow when your tears run deeper than oceans? Why do you feel like you're living behind glass, watching a world that never quite fits your soul? Dear one, let me tell you something that will shake you to your core. You weren't made wrong, you were made different. And that difference has been crushing you because nobody ever told you it was your calling card from heaven. You've spent decades wondering why joy always came with a price tag, why every blessing felt like it had barbed wire wrapped around it, why you could feel the pain of strangers across a crowded room, why you've outlived people you thought would walk with you to the end, why retirement feels more like exile than reward, why the silence in your house screams louder than any noise ever did. Here's what the church never taught you. The chosen ones don't get the easy path, they get the necessary one. You feel too much, you think too deep, you see too clearly. And for 70, 80, 90 years, you've been apologizing for it. You've been trying to dim your light so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable in their darkness. You've been carrying the emotional weight of families, communities, entire generations on your shoulders, and nobody ever said thank you. Nobody ever said, "We see what you're doing." But God sees. And tonight, through these words, He's saying, enough hiding, enough shrinking, enough apologizing for the depth I placed in you. Look at Moses. 40 years in the palace, 40 years in the wilderness, 80 years old when God finally said, "Now you're ready." The burning bush didn't appear when Moses was young and eager. It came when he was old and weathered, when he knew the weight of leadership, when he understood the cost of carrying people who don't always want to be carried. Look at Elijah. After the greatest victory of his ministry, calling down fire from heaven, he sat under a broom tree wanting to die. The weight of being chosen had crushed him so completely that he begged God to take his life. But God didn't rebuke him. God fed him. God whispered to him. God reminded him that the journey wasn't over. And David, sweet psalmist David, anointed as a teenager, but spent years hiding in caves, running from the very people he was called to lead. In those caves, feeling forgotten, betrayed, abandoned, he wrote some of the most powerful words ever penned. Why are you downcast, O my soul? Even the man after God's own heart knew what it felt like to be crushed by calling. You know that feeling, don't you? That cave feeling, that broom tree exhaustion, that burning bush moment when you're too old, too tired, too broken to believe God could still use you. But here's the truth that will resurrect your spirit. You're not invisible. You've been incubating. Every betrayal refined your discernment. Every loss deepened your compassion. Every sleepless night was boot camp for intercession. Every tear was liquid preparation for the ministry that only comes through suffering. You thought you were being punished. You were being prepared. The widow who loses her husband of 50 years isn't just grieving. She's being initiated into a sorority of women who know how to pray when words fail. The grandfather who watches his children make the same mistakes he made isn't just disappointed. He's being commissioned as a generational watchman. The retiree who feels useless isn't forgotten. He's being repositioned. You've been asking God, why me? When you should have been asking, why not me? Who else could carry this weight? Who else has the spiritual muscle built through decades of pressing through when pressing through seemed impossible? The enemy has convinced you that your sensitivity is weakness, that your tears are embarrassing, that your deep thinking is depression, that your spiritual hunger at this age is foolishness. But every lie he's whispered reveals how dangerous you really are to his kingdom. You think you're too old. Moses was 80. Abraham was 99 when he got his promise. Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your credential. You think you're too wounded. Your scars are proof you survived what was meant to kill you. Your wounds are windows for others who are bleeding the same blood. Your pain is your platform. You think you're too forgotten. Queen Esther was hidden in a palace until the moment her people needed her most. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Maybe your hiding wasn't rejection. Maybe it was protection until this very hour. What if every person who walked away from you was making room for the people God is sending? What if every door that slammed shut was protecting you from assignments that weren't yours? What if every valley you walked through was carving out capacity for the mountain you're about to move? What if what you called being overlooked was really God setting you apart? The weight you've been carrying isn't punishment, it's preparation. And the preparation is over. The hiding is finished. The incubation is complete. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you keep apologizing for who God made you? Or will you finally step into the authority He's been building in you for decades? Because, chosen one, your spiritual winter is ending, and what's about to bloom from the soil of your suffering will astonish even you. You're sitting there right now thinking you're behind, aren't you? Thinking you missed your window. Thinking God gave everyone else the express lane while you got stuck in eternal traffic. Let me shatter that lie right here, right now. You know what's killing you inside? It's not that you failed, it's that you believe you're too late. You look at others half your age walking into opportunities you've dreamed about for decades, and something inside you whispers, your time has passed. But what if I told you that voice isn't from heaven? What if I told you that delay has been your divine protection? Listen to me, chosen one. Every closed door wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Every no wasn't denial, it was divine positioning. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for something your younger self couldn't have handled. Think about Joseph, sold into slavery at 17, falsely accused and thrown into prison at 25, forgotten by those he helped for 2 more years. If anyone had a right to say, "I missed my moment," it was Joseph. 13 years of delay, 13 years of watching others advance while he sat in chains. But Genesis 41 to 46 tells us Joseph was 30 when he stood before Pharaoh, 30 when he went from the prison to the palace in one day. Your delay wasn't denial, it was design. Moses was 80 when the burning bush called his name. Abraham was 75 when God promised him nations. Sarah was 90 when she held her miracle baby. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized Jesus in the temple. You think you're late? You're right on schedule. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been apologizing for your age instead of leveraging your advantage. You've been mourning your timeline instead of celebrating your preparation. Don't you understand? While others were rushing into premature positions, you were being seasoned in the secret place. While they were building on shallow foundations, you were developing roots that can withstand any storm. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. His enemies thought they had buried him alive. But when he walked out of that cell, he didn't emerge as a bitter old man. He emerged as a global leader who would reshape an entire nation. His delay became his credentials. His prison became his seminary. His waiting became his weapons training. What if your wilderness wasn't punishment but preparation? What if your delays weren't detours but divine appointments? What if every year you think you wasted was actually invested in your future effectiveness? I see you there, 65, 70, 75 years old, thinking it's too late to start that business, write that book, heal that relationship, chase that dream. But God is asking you the same question. He asked Ezekiel in the valley of dry bones, "Can these bones live?" And the answer isn't maybe. The answer is yes. Your experience is your expertise. Your scars are your credentials. Your age is your authority. While 20-somethings are Googling answers, you've lived them. While they're building platforms, you've built character. While they're chasing followers, you've learned to follow the only voice that matters. Look at what Scripture says about the righteous in Psalm 92 to 14. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Not were fruitful, not used to be productive. Will still bear fruit. Present tense, future promise. Your most productive years might be ahead of you, not behind you. But the enemy doesn't want you to know this. He wants you to believe the lie that your best days are over. He wants you to retreat into regret instead of stepping into your assignment. He wants you to spend your golden years grieving instead of glowing. But I'm here to tell you that every delay has been developing your destiny. Oprah didn't become Oprah until she was in her 30s. Julia Child didn't publish her first cookbook until 50. Laura Ingalls Wilder didn't write Little House on the Prairie until she was 65. Frank McCourt was 66 when Angela's Ashes made him famous. They weren't late bloomers, they were perfectly timed revelations. What if you're not behind, but right on the edge of becoming? What if this isn't your sunset, but your sunrise? What if God saved the best for last, because he knew the world would need your particular brand of wisdom right now? The urgency you feel isn't about time running out. It's about time opening up. It's about heaven saying, "Now, this is your moment. This is your hour." Don't you dare let another day pass apologizing for your age when you should be celebrating your arrival. Your delay wasn't denial. It was divine timing. Your wait wasn't waste. It was preparation. Your pause wasn't punishment. It was positioning. And if something in your spirit just said yes to these words, then you're ready to stop mourning your timeline and start celebrating your breakthrough. In the comments right now, I want you to declare it with bold faith. I'm not late. I'm being launched. Say it like you mean it. Say it like you believe it. Because heaven is about to prove that your greatest chapter hasn't been written yet. It's about to begin. But first, you need to understand why the enemy fought so hard to keep you in that holding pattern. And that revelation is going to shake you to your core. You know what nobody told you about getting older? That the very thing society says makes you invisible actually makes you more spiritually visible than you've ever been. While the world discards your wisdom, heaven is amplifying your frequency. While they dismiss your decades of experience, God is saying, now you're ready for what I've been preparing you for your entire life. Listen to me, beloved. That restlessness you feel at 3 a.m. when sleep won't come, that's not insomnia. That's your spiritual DNA awakening. That pull you feel towards something deeper, something more meaningful than just making it through another day. That's not wishful thinking. That's divine recognition. Your cells remember what your mind forgot. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Before your first breath, before your first heartbreak, before your first disappointment, heaven had already marked you. Not for later, not for when you get it all together. Right now, at this exact age, in this exact season. But here's what breaks my heart. How many of you have been told that your best days are behind you? How many times have you looked in the mirror and whispered, God, did you forget about me? How many sleepless nights have you spent wondering if you missed your calling, if you wasted too much time, if you're too old, too tired, too broken for God to use? That's not God's voice. That's the enemy's greatest lie targeted specifically at your generation, because he knows something you're just now remembering. He knows that seniors who surrender to their spiritual DNA become unstoppable forces in the kingdom. He knows that your prayers carry more weight because they've been tested by fire. He knows that your faith burns brighter because it's been refined by decades of trials. Even in your silence, your spirit was sending signals. Heaven never lost track of you. While you thought you were invisible, God was positioning you. While you thought you were forgotten, He was preparing your assignment. Every year you've lived, every tear you've cried, every battle you've survived has been building spiritual muscle for this moment. Neuroscience proves what Scripture declared thousands of years ago. Your brain changes with every belief. Your biology echoes your faith. When you declare, I am chosen, your neural pathways literally rewire. When you speak life over your future, your DNA responds. Science is finally catching up to what God built into you from the beginning. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and your cells remember their creator. Let me tell you about Margaret Thompson, 78 years old, from Buffalo, New York. For 60 years, she cleaned office buildings downtown. Every night, she prayed over each desk, each chair, each wastebasket. She had no congregation, no platform, just a mop and a prayer life. One night, she found a suicide note in a young lawyer's trash can. She spent the entire night on her knees, crying out to God for this stranger's life. The next morning, that same lawyer walked into his office, saw Margaret praying, and broke down. He said later that something in the atmosphere had shifted overnight. Today, he runs a non-profit that has prevented over 500 suicides. Margaret's silent prayers became someone else's loudest miracle. Or consider Frank Martinez, 82, a Marine veteran from Queens. Every clear night, he'd sit on his fire escape, looking at the stars, talking to God about the battles he couldn't forget. Neighbors thought he was just a lonely old man, but Frank was interceding for every veteran who couldn't sleep, every soldier still fighting wars in their minds. One night, he felt prompted to start visiting the VA hospital. Today, at 87, he leads a grief recovery program that's been adopted nationwide. The stars weren't just listening to his pain, they were downloading his assignment. This is who you are. This is your generation. You are not the forgotten ones. You are the secret weapons. You're not too old. You're finally old enough. You're not behind schedule. You're right on time for what heaven has been orchestrating since before you drew your first breath. 1 Peter 2-9 proclaims, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, not God's backup plan, not his second choice, his treasured inheritance. And treasures become more valuable with age, not less. You were marked before you were born, but today is the day you remember. Today is the day you stop apologizing for your age and start activating your anointing. Today is the day you realize that every gray hair is a crown of wisdom, every wrinkle is a map of endurance, every scar is a testimony of survival. Your spiritual DNA is not just speaking, it's shouting. It's declaring to every force of darkness that tried to silence you, I'm still here, I'm still chosen, I'm still dangerous to the kingdom of hell. Your voice carries authority that only comes through decades of walking with God. Your prayers penetrate realms that younger believers can't even access yet. The enemy spent your entire life trying to convince you that your value decreases with time. But God's economy works in reverse. Like fine wine, like aged whiskey, like vintage instruments that produce the richest sounds, you become more potent, more powerful, more precious with every passing year. So I'm asking you right now, will you finally believe what God has been declaring over you for decades? Will you stop waiting for permission to step into your calling? Will you finally receive the truth that your best days aren't behind you, they're ahead of you? If something just ignited in your spirit, if you felt your spiritual DNA responding to this truth, I need you to do something bold. In the comments below, write these 3 words. I remember. I receive. I rise. Don't think about it. Don't hesitate. Let your fingers become prophetic instruments, declaring your awakening to heaven and earth. Because, chosen one, your spiritual DNA isn't just speaking anymore. It's about to explode into manifestation. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God is about to release through a generation that refuses to be silent any longer. The reason you're tired isn't because you're old. It's because you've been fighting a war without knowing you were on the battlefield. You wake up exhausted. You go to bed restless. You feel like you're running on empty, and no amount of sleep, no vacation, no break seems to restore what's been drained from your soul. And everyone around you says, well, that's just aging. But I'm here to tell you something that will shake you to your core. Your fatigue isn't physical, it's spiritual. Listen to me, chosen one. The enemy has been stealing your energy because he knows something about your future that you're just beginning to discover. While you've been blaming your body, he's been attacking your spirit. While you've been questioning your strength, he's been sabotaging your assignment. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Have you felt suddenly, inexplicably lonely even when surrounded by family? Have you lost clarity about things you once knew for certain? Do you feel restless in your own skin, like something's calling you but you can't identify what? Do you have sleepless peace where your body wants to rest but your spirit won't let you? These aren't symptoms of getting older. These are the calling cards of spiritual warfare. The devil wasn't afraid of your past. He was terrified of your future. Think about it. Why would the enemy waste his time attacking someone who posed no threat? Why would he spend decades wearing you down if you weren't carrying something that could destroy his kingdom? Your exhaustion isn't evidence of your weakness, it's proof of your power. Here's what they don't tell you in church. The closer you get to your divine appointment, the more intense the resistance becomes. It's like trying to push two magnets together. The closer they get, the stronger the opposing force. That's what you've been feeling. That's why every step forward feels like you're walking through concrete. But Isaiah 54:17 declares something that will ignite fire in your bones. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Did you catch that? No weapon formed. Not some weapons, not most weapons, no weapon. That includes the weapon of exhaustion. That includes the weapon of discouragement. That includes the weapon of making you feel forgotten. You are not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're next. The enemy knows your graduation day is coming. He knows your promotion is in motion. He knows that everything he's tried to destroy in you is about to be resurrected with supernatural power. So he's throwing everything he has at you right now, hoping you'll quit 3 feet from gold. But here's what he didn't count on. Warriors aren't made in comfort. They're forged in the fire of opposition. Every sleepless night was building your endurance. Every lonely season was developing your dependence on God. Every moment of confusion was teaching you to hear His voice above the noise. You think you're tired, but you're actually stronger than you've ever been. You think you're broken, but you're actually being rebuilt for something greater. You think you're forgotten, but heaven has been watching every tear, counting every sacrifice, preparing your reward. The devil made one crucial mistake. He tried to exhaust someone God has already energized for the battle ahead. He tried to isolate someone God has already positioned for divine connections. He tried to confuse someone God has already given perfect clarity about their calling. You know what exhaustion really is? It's the enemy's last-ditch effort to keep you from recognizing who you really are. Because the moment you understand that you're not just surviving, you're conquering, everything changes. The moment you realize that your weariness isn't weakness but warfare, you stop fighting like a victim and start fighting like a victor. Look me in the eyes through this screen. You have been chosen for such a time as this. Not when you feel stronger. Not when you feel younger, not when you feel more qualified. Right now, in your exhaustion, in your questions, in your seeming weakness. God doesn't need your strength, He needs your surrender. He doesn't need your energy, He needs your obedience. He doesn't need you to feel ready, He needs you to be willing. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells in you. Romans 8:11. That means the power that conquered death is flowing through your tired bones right now. That means the force that rolled away the stone is operating in your weary heart. That means the energy that spoke galaxies into existence is available to you in this very moment. So, if you're sitting there feeling battle-worn, if you're wondering if you have enough left in the tank, if you're questioning whether God still has a plan for your life, I need you to type in the comments right now, I may be weary, but I'm ready. Because, chosen one, your warfare is about to become your victory. Your exhaustion is about to become your testimony. And your enemy is about to discover that attacking God's anointed was the biggest mistake he ever made. The battle isn't over, but neither are you. Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a countdown happening in the spirit realm that most people will never recognize. But you're not most people. You've been marked. You've been set apart. And what I'm about to reveal will either ignite your faith or expose whether you're truly ready for what God has prepared. Do you remember Joshua standing before the walls of Jericho? 7 days. That's all God gave him. 6 days of marching in silence while the enemy mocked from the walls. 6 days of looking foolish to the world. 6 days of trusting a strategy that made absolutely no sense. But on the 7th day, everything changed. The walls didn't just crack, beloved. They didn't slowly crumble. They collapsed completely, instantly, supernaturally. Here's what shakes me to my core. Joshua didn't wait for the walls to show signs of weakness before he started marching. He didn't demand proof that God's plan would work. He moved as if the victory was already won. And that's exactly what separated him from the millions who died in the wilderness without ever seeing their promise. So let me ask you something that's going to disturb your comfort zone. What walls have you been staring at instead of marching around? What promises have you been waiting for God to prove before you act? What if your very hesitation is the only thing standing between you and your breakthrough? I need you to understand something. The enemy doesn't fear your prayers. He doesn't fear your worship. He doesn't even fear your faith. What terrifies him is when God's people start moving like the answer is already on its way. Because movement triggers heaven, obedience activates the supernatural, and persistence breaks every demonic stronghold. But here's where most believers miss it. They want to see the walls shaking before they take the first step. They want confirmation before commitment. They want evidence before obedience. That's not faith, dear one. That's fear disguised as wisdom. The truth is, you've been circling your Jericho for years. That financial breakthrough you've been praying for, that healing you've been believing for, that relationship restoration you've been crying over, that purpose you've been seeking. You've been walking around it, talking about it, hoping for it. But when was the last time you marched around it with the confidence of someone who knows the walls are already cracking? God is giving you a 7-day window, not 7 weeks, not 7 months, 7 days. And I'm not talking about some religious ritual or magical formula. I'm talking about a divine countdown that will separate the committed from the casual, the desperate from the comfortable, the chosen from the crowd. For the next 7 days, you're going to do what Joshua did. You're going to move like the promise is already in motion. Every morning, you're going to journal one declaration of faith. Every evening, you're going to pray one prayer of gratitude for what you can't see yet. Every day, you're going to take one action that aligns with your breakthrough. But here's the key. You're not doing this to convince God to move. You're doing this because God has already moved. You're not trying to earn your miracle. You're positioning yourself to receive what's already been released. You're not hoping for a breakthrough. You're preparing for the collapse of everything that's been blocking you. Day 1 through 6 might feel like nothing's happening. The walls might look just as solid. The circumstances might appear unchanged. The doubters might get louder. But chosen one, that's when your faith gets tested. That's when you discover whether you're a Joshua or just another wanderer in the wilderness. Because on day 7, something shifts, not gradually, suddenly. The walls that seemed permanent become rubble. The doors that were locked swing wide open. The provision that seemed impossible starts flowing. The healing that felt distant becomes present. The calling that seemed delayed becomes undeniable. But you have to march, you have to move, you have to act like the countdown has already begun, because it has. The moment you clicked on this video, the moment you felt that stirring in your spirit, the moment you recognized this wasn't just another message but a divine appointment, that was day 0. Your preparation day is over. I'm going to give you the most important assignment of your spiritual life. Write today's date in the comments and declare, "This is day 1. My 7-day countdown begins now." Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't wait until you feel ready. The walls of Jericho didn't wait for Joshua to feel confident. They waited for Joshua to obey. And here's what's going to happen. Some of you will make that declaration and something inside you will shift immediately. Others will hesitate, and you'll miss this moment. But for those who step into this divine countdown, you're about to discover that God's timing isn't just perfect, it's explosive. Are you ready to stop being a spectator to your own breakthrough and start being a participant in your own miracle. You know what breaks my heart? Walking through nursing homes and seeing beautiful souls sitting by windows, convinced their story is over. Watching 70, 80, 90-year-old warriors whispering, "I'm too old now. My time has passed." Dear one, let me tell you something that will shake you to your core. The enemy's greatest lie isn't that you're unworthy. It's that you're expired, that your best days are behind you, that God is done using you because your hair turned silver and your hands got wrinkled. But what if I told you that Anna the prophetess was 84 years old when she prophesied over baby Jesus? What if I reminded you that Abraham was 75 when God called him to father a nation? What if Elizabeth conceived John the Baptist in her old age, becoming the mother of the greatest prophet ever born? You're not too old to be used, chosen one. You're just seasoned enough to lead. Listen to me carefully. While the world worships youth, heaven treasures wisdom. While society discards the aged, God promotes them to positions of spiritual authority. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decay, they're battle scars from a life well fought. Your slow walk isn't weakness, it's the steady gait of someone who's learned when to move and when to wait. Right now, someone younger is struggling with the exact same battle you conquered 20 years ago. Someone is drowning in the same storm you weathered. Someone is breaking under pressure you've learned to bear with grace. They don't need another motivational speaker. They need a Moses. They need an Anna. They need you. Think about Viola Davis. She didn't win her first Academy Award until she was 51. Denzel Washington's mother, Lennis, didn't publish her first book until she was 93 years old. Colonel Sanders was 65 when he started KFC. Grandma Moses didn't pick up a paintbrush until she was 78. Your breakthrough isn't behind you. It's been waiting for you to stop believing the calendar and start believing the Creator. But here's what's breaking heaven's heart right now. You're sitting on spiritual treasures that a desperate generation needs, and you're convinced they're outdated. You have prayers that can break generational curses. You have wisdom that can save marriages. You have testimonies that can resurrect dead dreams. You have a relationship with God that young people are dying to witness. Yet you're hiding, you're retreating, you're whispering. Who am I to teach anyone anything? Who are you? You're David's mighty warrior who fought lions in private before facing Goliath in public. You're Esther, who spent years being prepared for one divine moment. You're Joseph, who endured the pit and the prison before stepping into the palace. You want to know why your body aches more now? Because you're carrying the weight of legacy. You want to know why sleep doesn't come as easily? Because heaven is keeping you awake for intercession. You want to know why you feel so deeply about the condition of this world? Because you've been appointed as a watchman on the wall. Ezekiel 33:6 says, "But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin, but I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood." You're not a sunset, beloved. You're the lantern lighting the next path. You're not the ending of a story. You're the wisdom chapter that makes everything else make sense. I think about all the unknown saints whose legacy outlived their physical presence. The grandmother who prayed her family through the Great Depression. The elderly deacon who mentored young men who went on to change cities. The retired teacher who tutored struggling kids who became doctors and lawyers and ministers. Their names never made headlines, but their fingerprints are all over heaven's Hall of Fame. What if your greatest ministry isn't what you did in your 30s or 40s? What if it's what you're about to do in your 70s and 80s? What if the young person God wants to use to heal this broken world is waiting for you to speak life over them? What if the prodigal child who needs to come home is waiting for your prayers to break through? What if legacy isn't looking back at what you've accomplished? What if legacy is looking forward to who you're about to raise up? Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Joshua was old when he led Israel into the promised land. Samuel was aged when he anointed David. Paul was seasoned when he wrote his most powerful letters from prison. Stop apologizing for your age and start activating your authority. Stop hiding your wisdom and start releasing your warfare. Stop sitting in the bleachers and start stepping onto the field. This world doesn't need another 20-something with a platform. It needs 70-somethings with power. It needs 80-somethings with anointing. It needs 90-somethings who still believe in miracles because they've seen too many to doubt. Your legacy isn't looking for a young person to carry it forward. Your legacy is looking for you to step into it right now. But time is running out. Every day you wait is another day someone stays lost who could have been found through your wisdom. Every moment you hesitate is another moment a marriage stays broken that your prayers could have healed. God didn't preserve you through everything you've survived just to have you retire from the battle. He kept you here because the final victory requires generals who've been through every kind of war. Tag someone who needs this truth. Write the name of someone you're praying will awaken to their legacy calling. Because, chosen one, your story isn't ending. It's just getting to the chapter where everything you've learned becomes everything they need. You know what's been eating at you, don't you? That gnawing question that keeps you up at 3 a.m. God, where did everybody go? One day, you had friends, a community, people who called you spiritual family. Then suddenly, silence. Crickets. Like they all got a memo you never received. You've been asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Why does everyone else seem blessed while I'm sitting here alone? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. God's not ghosting you. He's guarding you. Listen carefully. Chosen one. That friend who stopped calling after 20 years of friendship, that wasn't betrayal. That was divine intervention. That church you had to leave because suddenly you felt like a stranger in your own spiritual home. That wasn't rejection. That was redirection. That door that slammed shut just when you thought you were walking into your breakthrough. That wasn't punishment. That was protection. See, here's what nobody tells you about being chosen. Isolation comes before elevation. Every single time, no exceptions. God has to separate you before he can elevate you, because elevation without separation leads to contamination. Look at Noah. Genesis 7:16 says, "Then the Lord shut him in." Not Noah shutting himself in, not the neighbors locking him out. God himself sealed that ark. Why? Because a flood was coming that would destroy everything on the earth. Noah wasn't abandoned in that ark. He was preserved for what was coming after the storm. Right now, God has built an ark around your soul. You feel trapped, isolated, forgotten. But honey, you're not trapped. You're protected. There's a spiritual storm raging that your flesh couldn't survive, so God had to seal you away from influences that would have drowned you. You want to know why that toxic relationship had to end? Because God saw the poison they were feeding your spirit. You want to know why that job fell through? Because that environment would have killed your calling. You want to know why that investment didn't work out? Because God was protecting your resources for something bigger. But here's where it gets deep. The isolation isn't just about protection, it's about preparation. David spent years alone in caves before he touched the throne. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he led a nation. Jesus spent 40 days in the desert before he changed the world. Every great move of God starts with a season of hiddenness, but we've been programmed to think that if we're not visible, we're not valuable. If we're not busy, we're not blessed. If we're not surrounded by people, we're not successful. That's a lie straight from hell. God whispered to me last night, and I'm going to share it with you. The people I'm preparing for global impact, I first isolate for intimate encounter. You see, when you're alone with God, really alone, that's when the downloading begins. That's when the supernatural downloads of wisdom, strategy, and divine revelation start flowing. Your isolation wasn't abandonment, it was incubation. Like an eagle's egg that must be kept warm and protected in the nest before it can soar above the mountains, God has been incubating your calling in the secret place. Think about it. Every person who tried to discourage your dreams, every voice that told you to be realistic, every influence that made you question your divine assignment had to be removed. Not because they were evil people, but because they couldn't handle the frequency you're being tuned to. You're being recalibrated for a different dimension of anointing, and most people can't vibrate at that level. So God had to create space. He had to clear the room. He had to remove the voices that would have talked you out of your destiny. Remember when Jesus told his disciples in John 16:7, "It is for your good that I am going away." They couldn't understand how his leaving could be good. But Jesus knew that his physical presence was limiting what the Holy Spirit wanted to do through them. Sometimes God has to remove the familiar to make room for the supernatural. Your family doesn't understand you anymore? Good. Your old friends think you've changed? Excellent. You don't fit in the places you used to belong? Perfect. That's not a sign that something's wrong with you. That's a sign that something's right with God's timing. But here's the part that'll make you weep. While you were feeling forgotten, God was bragging about you in heaven. While you were wondering if you mattered, angels were taking notes on your faithfulness. While you thought you were invisible, you were being prepared for an unveiling that will leave people speechless. The separation wasn't about punishment. It was about purification. God had to burn away everything that wasn't eternal so that what remains could carry the weight of what's coming. Your character had to be tested in private before your calling could be trusted in public. Every night you cried alone. God was collecting those tears in a bottle. Every prayer you whispered in the dark, heaven was recording for your testimony. Every moment you chose faith over fear, angels were taking notes for your biography. You weren't abandoned, dear one. You were hidden for the unveiling. And I'm here to tell you tonight, the unveiling is about to begin. The season of separation is ending, and the time of supernatural elevation is upon you. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you step into this new season with the wisdom you gained in the wilderness, or will you run back to the familiar faces that God removed for your protection? You thought the awakening would bring peace, didn't you? You thought once you recognized your calling, the path would smooth out. But instead, everything got harder. The anxiety spiked. The dreams became more vivid, more unsettling. Old wounds you thought were healed started bleeding again, and you've been asking yourself, God, if this is really you, why does it feel like I'm falling apart? Listen to me, chosen one. You're not falling apart. You're crowning spiritually. That surge of panic that hits you at 3 a.m., that's not a breakdown. That's birth pains. That trauma from 15 years ago that suddenly won't leave you alone. That's not regression. That's your spirit pushing through the final barriers. That overwhelming sense that everything in your life is about to change and you can't stop it. You're absolutely right. And you're not supposed to stop it. Revelation 12:2 says it perfectly. She was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. The woman clothed with the sun, crowned with 12 stars, wasn't just uncomfortable. She was in agony, because what she was delivering was so powerful, so threatening to the kingdom of darkness, that hell itself mobilized to destroy it the moment it emerged. You want to know why your spiritual enemies have intensified their attacks? Because they can sense what's coming. They know you're about to birth something that will cost them territory they've held for generations. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty threats. He's throwing everything he has at you because your delivery is going to devastate his kingdom. Think about Tyler Perry. Right before his first major breakthrough, he was living in his car, broke, rejected. His own family thought he'd lost his mind chasing what they called impossible dreams. He later said those were the darkest months of his life. He wanted to quit every single day. But what he didn't know was that he wasn't experiencing failure, he was in spiritual labor. The pain wasn't punishment, it was production. Every night he slept in that car, every rejection letter, every moment of humiliation was his spirit crowning. And the moment he stopped fighting the process and surrendered to the pain, everything shifted. Today, he owns one of the largest film studios in America. But here's what most people don't understand: his empire wasn't built from his success. It was birthed from his surrender to the process of spiritual labor. You've been trying to manage this process, haven't you? Trying to control the timeline, negotiate with the pain, find shortcuts through the contractions. But spiritual birth doesn't work that way. You can't C-section your way into destiny. The pressure has to build, the old has to break, the new has to fight its way through. That recurring dream that makes no sense but won't leave you alone. That's your spirit showing you what you're about to deliver. That sudden fear of failure that's bigger than any fear you've ever felt. That's because what's coming is bigger than anything you've ever carried. That feeling like you're dying to everything familiar. You are. Because what's being born can't coexist with what's been. Here's what the enemy hoped: you'd never figure out the intensity of your spiritual warfare is directly proportional to the magnitude of your assignment. Small callings don't require this level of preparation. Average purposes don't provoke this kind of opposition. You've been in agony because you're delivering something extraordinary. In the natural, when a woman is crowning, the pain reaches its peak right before the breakthrough. The moment when she feels like she can't take another second is the exact moment the baby is about to arrive. The final push always feels impossible until it's over. You're in that moment right now. That feeling like you're about to break. You are. But not the way you think. You're breaking open to release what's been growing inside you. You're breaking through the last barrier between where you've been and where you're going. If you're feeling like you're about to shatter into a million pieces, I want you to stop right now and write this in the comments. I'm birthing something holy. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just declare it. Because your words have the power to shift your perspective from victim to victor, from patient to participant. You thought you were dying, but heaven says, no, you're delivering. You thought this was the end of your story, but this is just the end of the chapter where you didn't know who you were. The war in your womb isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to deliver you into the fullness of your calling. But here's the critical truth that will determine whether you birth this blessing or abort it. In fear, you have to stop fighting the process and start partnering with it. You have to stop seeing the pain as evidence that something's wrong and start recognizing it as proof that something's right. The question that will define your next season is this: will you push through the final contraction, or will you give up right before the miracle arrives? You've been believing without seeing for so long that your faith feels like it's hanging by a thread. 40 years of prayers, 20 years of waiting, 10 years of watching others get their breakthrough while you're still standing in the same place, wondering if God even remembers your name. I know exactly how you feel, chosen one. I know because I've walked with thousands who've sat in that same chair, staring at that same ceiling, whispering that same desperate prayer. God, if you're real, if you really see me, where's my proof? Here's what's about to shake you to your core. Your proof is coming, but it's not coming the way you think. See, we've been conditioned to expect God to show up like a Hollywood movie. Lightning bolts, burning bushes, angels with trumpets. But what if I told you that while you've been scanning the skies for your sign, your miracle has been sitting in your living room for the past 6 months? What if your breakthrough is disguised as the neighbor who keeps offering to help with your groceries? What if your financial blessing is hidden inside that phone call you've been avoiding? What if your healing is wrapped up in that relationship you've been too proud to restore? The grandmother in Ohio who prayed for her heroin-addicted son for 40 years, 40 years, dear one. Every Christmas, empty chair. Every birthday, broken promises. Every Mother's Day, wondering if this would be the year she'd get the call that he was gone forever. She'd almost given up hope when her doorbell rang on a Tuesday morning in March. There he stood, clean, sober, tears streaming down his face. "Mom," he said, "I don't know why, but I woke up this morning and all I could think about was coming home." That wasn't coincidence. That was 4 decades of faith finally manifesting. But here's the twist that'll make your spirit leap. He'd been clean for 8 months. 8 months he'd been walking past her house, wanting to knock, but shame kept him walking. The breakthrough wasn't when he got clean. The breakthrough was when he finally had the courage to come home. How many of you are waiting for God to change your circumstances when He's actually waiting for you to change your perspective? Hebrews 11:1 says, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." For years you thought that meant faith was a substitute for proof. But substance means it's already real. Evidence means it's already there. You've been treating faith like a placeholder when it's actually the proof itself. Your son, who calls every Sunday, isn't just being dutiful. He's your answered prayer for family restoration. Your body that gets up every morning despite the arthritis isn't just stubborn. It's your healing in progress. Your bank account that never quite runs empty despite living on a fixed income isn't just luck. It's your provision manifesting $1 at a time. But here's the warning that's going to save your spiritual life. Don't miss your miracle because it doesn't match your imagination. The Israelites did this exact thing. They begged God for a king for generations. When He finally sent one, they rejected him because David didn't look royal enough. Too young, too small, too ordinary. They almost missed their greatest king because he didn't fit their expectations. What if your healing doesn't come through a dramatic laying on of hands, but through the wisdom to finally change your diet? What if your financial breakthrough doesn't come as a lottery ticket, but as the courage to finally start that small business you've been talking about for 15 years? What if your companion isn't going to be the tall, dark stranger from your dreams, but the gentle soul who's been sitting 3 pews behind you every Sunday for the past 2 years? The enemy's greatest trick isn't making you doubt God's power, it's making you doubt God's packaging. Listen to me carefully. There's a 73-year-old woman in Detroit right now, sitting in her apartment, wondering if God forgot about her. Tomorrow morning, her grandson is going to call and ask if he can move in while he finishes nursing school. She's going to hesitate because she thinks she's too old to help raise anyone. But that phone call is her answered prayer for purpose. That grandson is her ministry. That chaos is her calling. There's a 68-year-old man in Phoenix who just lost his wife of 45 years. He's sitting in his garage every evening, staring at the tools he hasn't touched since she died. Next week, his neighbor's going to ask if he can help fix a broken fence. He's going to want to say no because his heart's too heavy. But that hammer in his hand is going to become his healing. That fence is going to become his bridge back to living. Your miracle is already standing beside you. Your answer is already walking around your house. Your breakthrough is already sitting at your kitchen table. But you're still looking up at the sky, waiting for God to write your name in the clouds. Stop waiting for proof and start recognizing it. Stop asking for signs and start seeing them. Stop begging for miracles and start living them. Because here's the truth that's going to revolutionize your remaining years. God isn't going to give you new evidence. He's going to open your eyes to see the evidence He's already planted all around you. The push you're feeling right now, that restlessness, that sudden urge to call someone, to go somewhere, to do something you've been putting off, that's not anxiety. That's anticipation. That's your spirit recognizing that your season of waiting is about to collide with your season of walking. But you have to move. You have to act. You have to stop being a spectator of your own miracle and become a participant in it. What if everything you've been praying for is waiting for you to get up from that chair and go answer the door? Type in the comments right now, "I'm ready to see it. I won't miss it." Because recognition is the first step toward reception. And reception is what separates those who experience God's power from those who just talk about it. Your proof is coming. But first, you've got to be willing to see it when it arrives. My dear chosen ones, as we reach the end of this sacred moment together, I want you to carry these truths with you like precious stones in your pocket. Your delays were not denials. Your struggles were not punishments. Your waiting was not wasting. Every single moment of your journey has been orchestrating something beautiful, something powerful, something eternal. Remember this, God's timing isn't late, it's precise. Your breakthrough isn't missing, it's manifesting. Your purpose isn't lost, it's being refined in the fire of your faithfulness. You are not behind, beloved. You are exactly where heaven needs you to be. I know some of you are sitting there right now, feeling the weight of years, wondering if it's too late, questioning if you still matter. Let me tell you something that will settle deep into your bones. God doesn't retire His chosen ones. He doesn't put expiration dates on His promises. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation. Abraham was 100 when his miracle son was born. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Your experience is not your burden, it's your blessing. You are not walking this path alone, never alone. Every step you take, heaven is watching. Every tear you cry, angels are collecting. Every prayer you whisper, God is answering. And right here, right now, you have a community of fellow travelers who understand your journey because they're walking it too. In the comments below, I want you to know that this is more than just a video section. This is a prayer room. This is a sanctuary. When you share your heart here, you're not just typing words. You're joining voices with thousands of others who've felt exactly what you're feeling. Don't carry your burdens alone when there are hands ready to help you hold them. So, let me ask you this final question, and really sit with it. If God has brought you this far, through every valley, every storm, every dark night of the soul, why would He abandon you now? Right when you're closest to your breakthrough. Now, let us pray together. Wherever you are, place your hand on your heart and feel the rhythm of life that God has sustained within you. Close your eyes and receive these words as if I'm sitting right there beside you, my hand on your shoulder, speaking life over your weary spirit. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. You know their names, Lord. You know their struggles. You know the nights they've cried themselves to sleep, wondering if anyone sees, if anyone cares, if their pain has any purpose. Lord, I speak over them right now. Their waiting is over. Their season of hiddenness is ending. The doors they thought were permanently closed are about to swing wide open. The dreams they buried are about to resurrect. The hope they almost lost is about to be restored tenfold. Father, bless their hands with favor. Bless their steps with divine direction. Bless their hearts with supernatural peace. Let them feel your presence so tangibly that doubt becomes impossible. Let them see your goodness so clearly that fear becomes irrelevant. For those struggling with health, touch their bodies with your healing power. For those worried about finances, open windows of provision they never expected. For those feeling lonely, send them connections that feel like coming home. For those questioning their purpose, reveal the assignments you've been preparing them for all along. And Lord, let them never forget, they are seen, they are known, they are loved, and they are never, ever forgotten. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Before you go, I want to thank you from the depths of my heart for staying with us through this entire journey. Your presence here matters more than you know. Every minute you invested in this message is a seed sown into your own breakthrough. If this word stirred something in your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. You might be the voice that saves someone from giving up right before their miracle arrives. Comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Ask for prayer if you need it. Share your testimony if you have one. This community is here for you. And if you want to stay connected to messages like this, hit that subscribe button and join our family. Because this isn't just content, this is confirmation that you're not alone in this journey. Until we meet again, walk in the confidence that your best days aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. Your story isn't over. The most beautiful chapters are about to be written. You are chosen, you are beloved, and your time is now. Go in peace, knowing that heaven is cheering you on.